very first story? Good. Once upon a time, in the tiny, isolated town of Farmville, Virginia, there was a gymnastics program. It was not a fantasy, it was not a fairy tale. It existed. I'm going to talk to you tonight about that program and about its very first VIP gymnast, Kathryn Idelson. When I first came to Longwood in 1977 as gymnastics coach, the main gymnasium was French Gym, and we shared that gym with 2 basketball teams and assorted other groups, which meant that very often we practiced very late at night. Sometimes we got no practice at all if there was another event, and we had to be knocked out of that. And always, before every practice, we had to set up our own equipment. And always after every practice, we had to take down our own equipment, which took about 25 minutes to 30 minutes of our allotted 2-hour time slot. And we had to do that for every competition as well. And when our gymnasts wanted to vault, they had to run out of a storage room, up an incline, down the floor, and land on the floor exercise mat, because there was not space for an official runway. And so, of course, we could never have a meet where floor exercise and vaulting were going on at the same time, which meant no championships or anything like that. And when our gymnasts did their dismounts from uneven bars, they had to make sure that at least one person was standing in front of the very close wall to prevent that gymnast from landing splat. And it was into these conditions that Kathryn Idelson entered as my first recruited gymnast. Now, Kathy was an advanced level private club gymnast from Annapolis, Maryland. She was competing for Royal Tees, a very respected and well-known gymnastics team in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and beyond. Kathryn could have gone to many other colleges with far better facilities, with far more coaches, with far bigger budgets, and far more emphasis put on gymnastics. But she chose to come to Longwood. And lucky for Longwood, she came as a package deal, because we got her parents as well. No parents were ever more dedicated to Longwood gymnastics than Kathy's parents. No parents ever attended more home and away gymnastics meets, including in such places as Colorado and Kansas, etc. No parents ever opened their home more generously to us as gymnasts. For example, when we didn't have enough money to spend the night in a hotel, and so we slept on Kathy's floor, or when we needed some extra food because our budget was pretty small, and so we got fed by Kathy's parents. And I mention all of this because Kathy's parents could not be here tonight. Her mother unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and her father could not make the trip. But even so, they deserve special recognition because they were some of Longwood's biggest recruiters, and they did a great deal to help our team develop. Now, as soon as Kathy began competing at Longwood, she immediately started setting records and making her mark on gymnastics, winning dual competitions, qualifying for state and regionals, and her freshman year qualifying for the national competition in Topeka, Kansas. And so she and I set off together for Topeka, which was a sort of homecoming for Kathy, since she was born in Topeka. And what a homecoming it turned out to be, because she qualified for finals, and she finished in 7th place in floor exercise and became the first All-American athlete in any sport. And here I digress for a few minutes. This past Thursday, I was talking with one of the co-sports editors for the Rotunda, who happens to be in one of my advanced Spanish classes. And we were talking about this event. And I mentioned to him that Kathy was the first All-American. And he said, the first All-American gymnast? And I said, no, the first All-American athlete. And he said, in any sport? And I said, in any sport. And you know what he said? He said, gosh, I didn't know that. And of course he didn't. And now another little story that goes along with that. A little while back, Kathy's husband was passing through Farmville. He thought it would be cool to stop in at Kathy's alma mater. And so, armed with his camera, he walked into Willard Hall, and he thought he'd surprise Kathy by taking some snapshots. But the surprise was on him, because he looked high, and he looked low, and he looked east, and he looked west, but nary a trace of gymnastics to be found at Longwood. And that is very sad, because Longwood Gymnastics was an important part of the history of this college, and it should be treated as so.